if you imagine a sun and you applied the yin yang symbol from Taoism, right? And of course it's designed in a flat thing, so it's not exactly I think accurate from a physics perspective model, but there's the black part of the symbol, and then there's the light part of the symbol. And you could imagine that there's the black part then would be the black hole, the sucking in.
That's right.
The white part would be the expanding out of light. But each sun is like a little yin yang. Each atom is like a little yin yang where there's
very good.
Where there's
I love your mind, man.
Thanks.
It's remarkable. You do very good because those concepts are complex. But this is why I made a 3D rendering of the yin yang, showing it was a torus. For the white part to be in the black and for the black part to be it had to be a torus in 3D. That's why I did it.
Wow, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I'll have to show you.
That's very
it's
cool.
Cute. It's nice.
That's very cool. I've realized in my own study of myself, I also, if I think of myself, let's say I'm a planet or whatever. There's a part of me that's the light, the life that's emitting.
Right.
And then there's also a part of me that I call anti-you that's actually sucking and actually like pulling against me.
Centering you.
Yeah, and it's like pulling against the expansion.
Yeah.
But also necessary for the creation of who I am.
If you didn't have that center, you couldn't exist, right? Like all the masters talking about go to your center, be in your center, look inside to your center.
Which is then looking back into the unified field and seeing the force that connects everything.
Yeah. And the spin that radiates you every day, right? Because you're burning carnal energy, like you're burning like at 100 degree Fahrenheit all day long, 7 days a week. And if it varies by a few degrees, you're having a really bad day, right? It's got to stay pretty steady. Right? Non-stop, right? It's significant amount of energy. We can get into that, but I'm going to give you the second evidence for the sun. When we measure the gamma ray emission of the sun, it's nothing like it should be. Like we're measuring way too much gamma ray emission of the sun. And if you calculate what would be the source of such gamma ray emission, you'd have a black hole in the middle. These are things, and there's other examples. There's the neutrino issue. There's all kinds of things, including, this is really important, including that when we see a star explode, and people think it's very rare that a star explodes. It's not. Like, if you look at galaxies, it's like Christmas lights in a galaxy. Boom, 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 boom. It's constantly blowing. The stars blowing their envelope continuously. And when we call it the death of a star, or it's called a supernova, right? A supernova explosion. What do we find after the star is dead? We don't find like, oh, there's nothing there anymore because it just blew all to shrederings. That's not what we find. We find a pulsar or a black hole in the middle. Pulsar is basically a black hole. Oh, they call it a pulsar when they're looking on the side, but if they look down the poles, they call it a black hole. You're finding a super energetic black hole structure, and we have this completely reverse in astrophysics. We think that it's because the star exploded that there's a black hole. As if, an explosion, it would have to be absolutely, completely symmetric. It's not possible for an explosion to produce a black hole. The black hole was there first. That's what made the star. A black hole is the spin of the quantum vacuum energy in that region of space. And then it gathers matter, it makes matter, right? Because it's making smaller spins, right? That we call protons. And then eventually it gathers enough material so that it lights up. Right? Because there's enough energy, there's enough friction in the system, there's enough fusion that the thing lights up.
And it goes. So it's actually creating more and more energy from the 0 point field, more and more and more energy until finally it can't hold that energy.
And it drags, it starts dragging on space-time so much. And there's the carbon cycle that we observe in our sun where, the outer layers start cooling off and they start making a shell. And then the energy builds inside, and then eventually, bam, it blows.
Mm-hmm.
And when it blows, it puts material everywhere in its vicinity, right? This material reorganizes on smaller vortices of space-time, right, of the vacuum fluctuation, and makes planets.
Mm-hmm.
This is why the first exoplanets we found, planets outside of our solar system, we found them around pulsars. And everybody was like, how can they be planets there? Right? It just blew up. Like, how can they be planets? That's because, and as well, this is why we're missing 80% the mass of the galaxies. We have to add dark matter. This dark matter, dark energy thing, it's just because we haven't calculated the quantum vacuum energy and the dynamics of such a thing inside the galaxy. As soon as you put that in, you get the right answers. It's the smoothie universe. You just got to think of it that way. Earlier on, when I was presenting in physics, they were telling me planets are probably extremely rare, and because of their model. And from my model, I was saying planets should be around almost every star because they go through this cycle of blowing material out that reorganizes in planets. Mm-hmm. This is why all the material we see in our solar system, we know came from the sun. Mm-hmm. Right? This is because, the protoplanetary disk we are in. The other thing they notice is that, it's bizarre. Our sun is in the middle of this bubble of nothing. That's because, and they say, well, there must have been a supernova explosion near our sun that moved everything out. And it's like, no. If there was an explosion, a supernova near our sun would have been moved out with the rest of the stuff. Mm-hmm. It's our sun that has gone through one of those cycles, mm-hmm. right? And that has made planets. And so I predicted there would be planets around pretty well every sun, every star. And that's what we're finding. And we're actually having a hard time finding stars that don't have planets.
Right.
And we're having a hard time explaining why we're finding supermassive, very mature galaxies and black holes at the beginning of the universe. Because now with our telescope, we can see almost to what we call the Big Bang, right? And we see huge black holes and galaxies that are in the standard model should not be there. Mm-hmm. But that's because, of course, it is the source of the galaxy, not the result. It's the source of stars, not the result. Mm-hmm. It's the source of matter, not the result. Mass is generated by this fundamental field.
Is there such a thing as like anti-mass or a vacuum that is the antithesis of mass itself in some level as you kind of balance the equation, right? So if there's something that's in articulation, then there's something that's in the antithesis of that articulation?
Yeah, the electromagnetic field is what you could call anti-mass, right? Uh-huh. It's what radiates out. And that's why photons have zero mass, right? Uh-huh. It's what radiates out. So when it radiates out, when the Planck field, when this fundamental field is moving out, it's going towards zero mass. And when it's going in, it's going towards infinite mass. You see? And then if you, I'm trying to get this in words.
Of course.
That of course. A little bit difficult, but I'm hoping your followers are following.
Yeah.
I know it's technical, and I hope it's interesting to them because really it sits at the center of our existence. And I think it will bring technologies that will change the world fundamentally. And I don't like using this sentence, but it will save the world. Like,
yes.
And it's not a saving thing because it's just a natural evolution of any societies. They eventually figure out how the electromagnetic fields works, and because it's easier, right? Because it's radiating out, so it's easier to understand. And then eventually they figure out how the gravitational field emerged from the foundation of the electromagnetic field, from this ground state of the electromagnetic field. And that's the second step of an advanced civilization, right? And then when they have that, they have not only almost infinite amount of energy available to them, but they have gravity control. So they don't need to be on the surface of a planet anymore. They can control gravity. They can make ships in space the size of planets if they want to, right? Because as soon as you can control gravity, all of a sudden you can do whatever you want. You can go to Jupiter for the weekend, you see? And that changes your consciousness fundamentally.